Somewhere in the shadows of history, entire books were erased, not because they were false, but because they were dangerous. Dangerous to empires, dangerous to religions, dangerous to any system that relied on obedience rather than understanding. Imagine a text so powerful that reading it could collapse a worldview, dissolve fear, or awaken a sense of inner authority. Now imagine what would happen if such a book spread freely. This is not speculation. This has happened again and again. Across centuries, certain writings were hunted, burned, sealed away in vaults, or declared heretical. Their authors were silenced, their ideas labeled forbidden, their wisdom scattered like ashes in the wind. Yet, fragments survived, whispering to those who know how to listen. In this video, we will journey into the hidden reasons why certain books were banned from history, not just who banned them, but why. We will explore what these texts revealed about the human mind, the nature of reality, and the quiet power that authorities feared most. This is not merely a story about censorship. It is a story about control and awakening. Long before modern governments and publishing laws, knowledge was power in its purest form. In ancient civilizations, Egypt, Sumer, India, and later Greece, sacred texts were not meant for the masses. They were guarded, initiated, and transmitted only to those deemed ready. Writing itself was once considered magical. To record an idea was to give it life beyond the speaker. But as empires rose, a shift occurred. Knowledge that once liberated the inner world began to threaten the outer structures of control. When the Library of Alexandria burned, it was not merely papyrus that turned to ash, but entire ways of understanding the cosmos. Texts on astronomy that rivaled modern science, philosophies that denied divine kingship, and spiritual teachings that placed the divine within the individual, all became liabilities. Philosophically, many banned books shared a dangerous idea that truth could be discovered through direct experience rather than authority. Gnostic gospels questioned centralized religion. Hermetic writings blurred the line between mind and matter. Eastern philosophies dissolved rigid hierarchies by teaching that enlightenment was accessible to anyone willing to look inward. Such ideas destabilized systems built on fear, guilt, and dependency. If individuals no longer needed intermediaries to access truth, power structures weakened. So the solution was simple and brutal: declare the knowledge forbidden. Label it heresy. Rewrite history. Over time, these teachings faded from public awareness, preserved only in secret orders, coded symbols, and fragmented manuscripts, waiting to be rediscovered. To understand why these books were banned, we must look beyond the surface of laws and decrees, and into the psychology of power. Most forbidden texts did not call for rebellion with swords or armies. They did something far more subversive. They rewired how a person understood themselves. Many of these books taught that the human mind is not a passive observer of reality, but an active participant in shaping it. This idea alone was revolutionary. If reality could be influenced by perception, belief, or consciousness, then fear lost its grip, obedience weakened, authority became questionable. Think of these texts as mirrors rather than manuals. When someone looked into them, they did not receive commands, they received recognition. A sudden awareness that the voice guiding their life did not need to come from a throne, a pulpit, or a crown. It could come from within. This is why metaphor and symbolism were so common in banned writings. Stories of serpents, light, ascension, and hidden keys were not fantasy. They were protective veils. Only those willing to think, reflect, and feel deeply would unlock their meaning. To the uninitiated, they appeared harmless or confusing. To the awakened, they were explosive. Yet even veiled truths eventually attract attention. When enough people begin questioning reality rather than accepting it, systems feel the tremor. And so these books were not argued against, they were erased. Still, a question lingers. If these ideas were truly false, why fear them at all? As we go deeper, a paradox begins to reveal itself. The very act of banning these books often amplified their power. Forbidden knowledge acquires an aura, an unspoken gravity that pulls seekers toward it. And what they often found was not chaos, but clarity. Contrary to popular myth, most banned texts were not dark or destructive. Many emphasized responsibility, self-mastery, and inner discipline. They warned that awakening without wisdom could lead to imbalance. This is precisely why authorities feared them, because they shifted control inward. A person who governs their own mind is difficult to manipulate. Take the case of esoteric manuals disguised as myths. On the surface, they told stories of gods and heroes. Beneath that surface, they encoded psychological maps, guides to confronting fear, dissolving ego, and integrating shadow. When misunderstood, these texts were labeled dangerous. When understood, they were liberating. Another misconception is that all banned books opposed religion. In truth, many sought to deepen spirituality, not destroy it. They challenged literalism, urging seekers to move beyond symbols and rituals into direct experience. But institutions built on rigid interpretation saw this as erosion, not evolution. Here lies the deeper secret. These books were not banned because they were wrong, but because they worked. They produced individuals who could think independently, feel deeply, and act consciously. And that kind of human being does not fit neatly into systems designed for control. So the knowledge was buried, but never fully destroyed. It waited, patiently, for a time when minds would be ready to rediscover it. Practical application. The true power of banned knowledge is not found in collecting forbidden titles, but in embodying the mindset they encouraged. Begin with a simple yet radical practice question, the source of your beliefs. Ask yourself, did I arrive at this truth through experience, or was it handed to me? This alone initiates the inner rebellion these books sought to awaken. Set aside moments of silent reflection each day, not to escape the world, but to observe your thoughts without judgment. Many suppressed texts taught that awareness is the gateway to freedom. As you watch the mind, patterns of fear, conditioning, and inherited assumptions reveal themselves and loosen their grip. Another practice is symbolic reading. When you encounter myths, scriptures, or even modern stories, look beyond the literal. Ask what the characters represent within you. The hero, the villain, the forbidden door. These are inner landscapes. This trains discernment, a skill authorities have always feared. Finally, move slowly. One of the greatest pitfalls is seeking forbidden knowledge for ego or rebellion alone. The ancient warnings were clear. Wisdom without humility destabilizes. Let insight refine your actions, your speech, and your sense of responsibility. When knowledge becomes lived experience, it no longer threatens the world. It transforms it. History teaches us that fire was never used to destroy falsehood. It was used to stop truth from spreading. The banning of books was not an act of protection, but an admission of fear. Fear that if humans remembered who they truly were, the illusions of control would collapse. These forbidden texts remind us of something unsettling and empowering, that authority over the mind is the final battleground. Empires rise and fall. Religions evolve. But the awakened individual remains difficult to rule. That is the legacy these books carried, and why they were hidden in shadows rather than debated in daylight. The question is no longer why these books were banned. The real question is why you are encountering these ideas now. Perhaps history is not finished repeating itself. Or perhaps it is inviting you to read between the lines, think beyond permission, and rediscover what was never truly lost. If this resonates, explore further. Question deeper. And remember, some truths were hidden not to disappear, but to be found by those ready to see.